What is going on? Jed Craddock here, and in honor of the red dropping earlier this week, I'm shooting this intro in red. Now, why you might ask? Easy answer, because I can. Now, if you haven't seen that video yet, go ahead and make your way up over to this general vicinity, click on that eye icon, and I will see you in a few. Oh, this is a little awkward. And back to the office. So now that we're back in the office, I kind of want to talk about some of the post-production stuff that I did and kind of how I changed the mood as we went through this video. Now, starting off, I committed a cardinal sin, and I shot this first sequence without any proper lighting. So here you see I have a background light, I have my key light here. Here I just couldn't have been bothered. I was tired, and I know it's a bad excuse, but it is what it is. And so I shot with no real lighting. I just used the lighting I have on my desk. And that actually became a problem in post-production, because in this clip right here, as I go dive in a little bit more, you see I have two clips right here. And so you won't notice much of an issue right here. However, if I disable said first clip, you're going to notice my LED lights are flickering. So I have my LED light right here, which you can't see out of frame, and I have my background light over here, and they flicker. And so what I had to do in post was I had to overlay that same clip, move it one frame over, and then essentially it gets rid of that flicker because they kind of sequence over, and it worked out all right. In hindsight, I just would have used regular lighting, but again, hindsight's 20/20, so oh well, it is what it is. So moving through, obviously here we're grabbing my stuff together, showing this post-production side of stuff, behind the scenes, getting over to my brother's house and studio. A lot of this is just more handheld, just because I wanted to kind of get that more gritty kind of feel to our handheld feel. And then once we get to my brother's house, his porchway and patio, his studio, all of the lighting is actually really warm. And so I kind of wanted to keep that feel because it's a lot more, inviting, it's more homey. And the first part of this video is just more hanging out, that creative side of stuff that's not just in the studio making music. Producing music is not just always just constantly creating content and more of that song, pieces of it. It's hanging out, having fun, socializing, having that aspect of everything. And so really that's what I wanted to highlight, is just more so of that hanging out, having fun, being with the dogs, socializing, being a little goofy. And so that's really kind of what we did. And then moving on from here, going on to this aspect of the song is getting that transition. And so here, if it will load. Give it a sec. Okay, I'm gonna go do some laundry. One eternity later. Rendering complete. So, finally getting back to this footage. So here we have this guitar sequence, and we can see that the color temperature is really warm. We have a lot of tungsten in this actual footage. And so here we hear the guitar playing in the background. And the transition that we have from this guitar sequence is that it slowly fades out with the clip and actually the audio as well. And so here, going into this transition, I see two things. Firstly, the color temperature is not as warm. And then secondly, I added a letterbox as well. And so those are the two big things that I did to kind of start off this different transition into this footage, is that the whole feel is a lot different. One, it's not as warm, and two, we're kind of more focused in this more cinematic 2.35:1 aspect ratio. And so here, I did this entire clip footage by doing a couple different things in post. And the big thing is going to be, one, compiling it all together with a multicam clip. And so the reason I did that is because I wanted to do multiple different takes, of the different process of making this song. And doing so while we were making this song, I shot different pieces of this song with the song actually playing in the background. And so while we were doing vocals, the song was playing in the background, so I could use it as a reference audio. And so in post, then I synced each individual clip to my footage. And so now we have each single clip synced, and then from there, I synced every single clip there to a multicam clip. And so here we see this multicam clip with different pieces of this footage, and it's blacked out where I don't have that footage, where I was no longer recording because I switched to a different angle. And then it also exists where I want it to. And so from here, for me to be able to kind of splice it, I need to view different angles. And so to do so, you hit Command-Shift-7, or you just hit View and then hit Angles. And then you can see where you are in this footage. So I see here, I have this clip selected. I can also scroll through and I can see the different clips, and I could see, let's say I wanted to switch to this clip. It would automatically cut at that point, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo that, and I have this entire clip that I can basically, as I scrub along, I can cut as I so choose. Now, after adding letterbacks, after adding the splicing for this, I wanted to kind of also add a different kind of feel for this whole footage. And so here, if you see, you can see these highlights right here are kind of bloomy. And you can do this one of two ways. So the first way is you can get a bloom filter, but those cost money and I didn't want to spend money. So I did it in post. And the way you do it in post is two things. One, you add the luma keyer, and two, you add a Gaussian blur. And so if we see up here, we see my luma keyer is one, set in composite mode, and two, I just have the highlights pulled out for my luma keyer. So let me pull my luma keyer out, and now we see a Gaussian blur applied across the footage. I put it back on, and we can see that my luma keyer is only on my highlights. Now I go ahead and turn my Gaussian blur off, and we see those highlights aren't necessarily as diffuse and as kind of mystified as well. And so this is how I add this kind of effect in post, is with the luma keyer, with the Gaussian blur, and I also changed the opacity so that way the underlying footage would stick out a little bit more, and I could kind of not make it as prominent of an effect. And so the opacity allows me to kind of dial in and hone how much I want this effect to be added in. And so for me personally, that's why I enjoy being able to use this in post, because ultimately I have a lot more control over it, versus if I was using like a ProMIS filter, I have to be using that clip and that footage, and I can't change that at all. And so basically all of this put together is kind of how I shot Making of the Red. And so this song allows you to kind of get a feel for, how it's put together, what they did in the production studio, and then also kind of, the whole process of creating the song. And that's really what I wanted to capture is, making this song, kind of having fun, being relaxed, just the whole process that's behind it. And that's really all that came into it. So that's all I have for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please like the video or subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Adieu.